It is the end of August here in North Carolina, and now is the perfect time to be planting your fall vegetable garden. Join me as I show you what is going into my fall victory garden. Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny, and today we are going to be planting our fall victory garden. Yes, it is the very end of August, and so we have got some fun things to plant. All the things that we're going to plant today are from seed. So we're going to be direct sowing some fun sunflowers. That is a mouthful. And then we're going to go up to the garden boxes and we are going to sow some vegetables. Now, we have been in this space before. This is the garden spot right in front of our house. We were here in the spring. We have reduced the size of the garden just a little bit because we're always very ambitious in the spring about how big of a garden we're going to do, and then, you know, reality hits and you're like, that was a little big. So we're going to condense it and make it a little bit smaller. The only thing that we're going to put here this fall is we're going to do some sunflowers. Jerry and I, that is our history. When we first started doing vegetable gardening and selling at our local farmers market, we did tons and tons of cut sunflowers for folks. We would actually harvest them and store them in 50-gallon trash cans. This whole field was full of sunflowers. We would successively plant them and then we would harvest them for folks. People would get them for their weddings and so for all these events. So we're kind of going back to our roots here a little bit with these sunflowers. We're going to be planting two different types of sunflowers, a lot of different varieties, but two really different types. So when you're looking for your sunflowers, if you're going to do them from seed, basically you're going to have either a single stem sunflower, and that is literally what it is. It is a single stem and it is going to produce one flower. Or you can do a branching sunflower. We've got some of those also. Branching sunflowers do exactly what they say. They do multiple branches off of that stalk with lots of different flowers. Now, there's pros and cons of both of them. Your single stem, you're going to get a nice, big, gorgeous, huge head, depending on your variety. We're going to be doing all of the Pro Cut series today. So I've got a bunch of different colors that are just standard, great, classic sunflowers that we're going to do. And then, so the cons of a single stem is obviously you only get one sunflower off of that plant. The pros of a branching sunflower is that you get multiple. Like you could probably get, I don't know, 15 to 20 flowers off out of one seed. The cons of that is that your stems are going to be shorter because it's a branch off of the main trunk, and typically your flower heads are going to be a little bit smaller than the single stem. I love mixing them up. Why do you have to do one or the other? I say let's just mix them up. All of the colors that I have chosen today are going to be that fall oriented colors. Sunflowers come in just a massive array of colors, and so it truly is you pick what you like and depending on what you're going to use them for. The typical time from when you plant your seeds to when you can harvest your flowers is anywhere from like 50 to 60 days. Again, we are at the end of August, but we are in North Carolina and we have a really long growing season. So we are, even at the 60-day mark, we are kind of pushing our limit a little bit because that will be end of October when they are in bloom. Now, as long as the weather cooperates with us, that will be perfect timing because we can actually start cutting flowers kind of middle of October towards the end, maybe even into November. Perfect for all the fall, you know, activities and Halloween and even maybe, you know, pushing into November. Now, if the weather doesn't cooperate with us and we get a really early frost or freeze, then I'm kind of out of luck. But you know what? Life happens. We've had these seeds for a couple of weeks. We should have done it probably at least 3 weeks ago. But whatever, we're just gonna go for it and see what happens because I may have, you know, I have less than $50 worth of seeds in here, and if it works, then we're gonna get tons of enjoyment and it's gonna be gorgeous. So I say we're just gonna go for it. Now, what we're doing today is, because we are in this big field, we have our Earthway cedar, and this is left over from our farmers market days. This is a fantastic little investment. If you have a large garden space and you're going to do a lot of direct seed sowing, really recommend you get one of these guys. It doesn't, you know, there's tons of different models and manufacturers, but just as cedar, it makes it so easy because you literally pour the seeds into the little bin. There's tons of different plates that go in there that space your seed out for you. So if you're doing okra, there's an okra plate. If you're doing green beans, so forth and so on. Jerry figured out a long time ago that sunflowers do really well with a sweet corn plate. It's the right size hole, and he actually just put tape over one of the holes so that it spaces it a little bit more appropriately. So we're just going to throw the seeds in there. We are going to divide it by colors and varieties, and then off we go, and it will dig the trench, seed goes in there, drops in the hole, and then there's a little chain and it covers up the hole behind us. The arm here is going to actually mark my row for my next time, so when I come back. So this little handy little arm here, you can slide it back and forth. So this will move up and down. So if you want your rows really close to each other, you can move that and mark them close to each other. Or if you want them further apart, like we're going to do for the sunflowers, then you move them back. If you're just doing a small space, like I did, I've already planted some sunflowers in the garden boxes. I just did one simple little row, and I just did it by hand. It's not that big of a deal. You just go in there and poke your little holes, stick them in there. They were all of the branching kind, so I spaced them a little bit further apart, about 12 inches apart. So on your branching varieties, you want to space them 12 to 24 inches apart, so that way they have plenty of room to spread out and branch. Your single stem varieties can go closer together. The closer that you put your seeds together, the smaller your stalk's going to be, and maybe the smaller your bloom's going to be. The further apart you spread them, the bigger the stem, the bigger the flower. When we first started, we didn't know any better, and we were spacing our sunflowers like, I think, a foot apart, something like that. We had tree trunks. I mean, they were like these massive, huge stalks on the sunflowers. So really about 4 to 6 inches for your single stem is a good spacing between them. All of your sunflowers are gonna go a 1/2 inch deep into the ground, and this little cedar is gonna do all the work, so let's just get going. The first one we are going to do is Pro Cut Red. Stick those in my back pocket so that way I don't have to make a bunch of trips back and forth. And then simply, here we go. We still have plenty of seeds in there. So, we'll go down the next one. Okay, so we got all of the single stem varieties planted, and It took up more room than I thought. Like I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking we were gonna get all these sunflowers in just a couple of rows and then we're gonna have all this empty garden space. Well, I think we're gonna have a whole garden full of sunflowers. So yay, that is exciting. So the single stems are done. Now we're moving on to the branching. We have two different kinds of branching. The first one is called chocolate. Look at the color on this flower. Absolutely gorgeous. Wind is picking up. Hopefully we don't get rain quite yet. And then the next one we're going to do is Autumn Beauty. And Autumn Beauty is also another branching. Great multicolored, just classic fall colors for sunflowers. One thing I did not mention about the sunflowers is that they germinate really quickly in like 7 to 14 days. This is a fantastic cut flower. If you have kids, this is a great little project to do because sunflowers they germinate really easy. They're a no fuss plant, super easy, and you're gonna have a great high success rate. So if you have kids and you're looking for a little something to do, a little project with them, because I know we're all experiencing some different schooling options, great little project. You don't need a whole lot of dirt to do it, so go get you some sunflower seeds and plant with the kids. So we're gonna get this planted. Hopefully we don't blow away. So here we go. We're done. All right, so all the sunflowers have been planted. We're gonna gather up our tools and then we will meet you up at the garden boxes and get some veggies planted. We are up here at our garden boxes. We visited this area lots of times before. I have 2 boxes that are empty that we're gonna go ahead and get filled today with some cool weather loving vegetables. Again, we've said this 1,000 times. We are in North Carolina, in the Piedmont of North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. If you do not know what is appropriate or when it is appropriate to plant some fall vegetables in your area, a lot of times if you just Google a planting, what vegetables can I plant now in my garden? Allow them to use your location, and so then they'll come up with planting guides, especially if you have like universities or your extension office, like your agricultural extension office, the USDA. They will have planting guides and schedules of when you can plant crops for the whole year. So I did that. We did, so this is when we're gonna do cool weather stuff. So today I have some Swiss chard we're gonna do, some lettuces, and some kale. Later on, I will do some, we're gonna do beets too. Love beets. So we're gonna do some beets. Later on in the season, I will do my garlic and things like that. But today we're gonna do some green leafy vegetables. These garden boxes are approximately like 4 feet deep, 4 feet wide, 10 to 12 feet wide, long. They are filled with just great organic soil. I do try to do all organic when I'm using on my vegetables, so no pesticides have been in here, no chemical fertilizers. It's been all natural type of deal. So not only do my vegetables grow really well here, but so do weeds. A couple weeks ago, a week or 2 ago, I came in here and weeded. There have been some little sprouts that have come back. So they're in here. So as I go through, I will just pull my weeds and get those out. But overall, it looks pretty good. You will notice that we have the brown, this is what we call just drip tape. It's in all of the boxes and it's very maneuverable. So all I have to do is we just have these metal, they're actually sod staples. So I have those that kind of tuck down my irrigation when I get it where I want it. So what I'm going to do right now is, because from when I was weeding, my irrigation got off a little bit, and so I don't have quite the room that I want to. So typically, especially when I'm direct seeding, direct sowing my vegetables. I like to plant the seeds as close to the drip tip that I can. So I mean, it just makes sense, right? Because I need my seeds to germinate, so I go where the water is. And again, these are just those great little sod staples. You don't really have to have them, but it does help keep things tucked down, especially if you have critters that come through your garden. I mean, nobody has that, right? Nobody has to deal with little four-legged or whatever friends coming through. So just getting it, you know, pretty good in there. All right. Years ago, I got this handy tool. It's called a Cobra from Johnny's Seeds. If you haven't already noticed, I love Johnny's Seeds. They're out of Maine. They have great seeds. So this is a Cobra. It's very multifunctional. You can get in there and pull some weeds out, especially like the big weeds. It really helps. But what we're going to use it for today is I'm going to make my rows. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the Bright Lights Swiss chard. And love Johnny's because on the back they have very detailed instructions on how you're supposed to plant. So I'm looking at this and it says that like my germination temperature needs to be like about 86 degrees. Well, we've got that, don't have to worry about that. And we're gonna sow it about a 1/2 inch deep. So I'm gonna come in here, make my little rows. And a 1/2 inch really is not that big. It's not that deep. You're basically just coming in here and you're gonna be covering your seeds with some soil. Now that line moved, so I'm gonna come back up here and get one of my stakes so that way the line doesn't move too terribly much in there. Love Swiss chard. This Bright Lights is really fun because it is multicolored. So not only is it a great edible, of course all your dark leafy greens are very healthy for you. And as a mother, I feel I am very obligated to tell you that you need to eat your veggies, especially your dark leafy ones. Got to build that immune system. Very high in vitamin C. So what's fun about these seeds is they don't look like typical seeds. They are very angular, very different than the sunflower seeds that we did, almost like little rough balls. So there you go. So very different looking seeds. Now, you know me. It says that they should be about a 1/4 of an inch apart. It says direct seed in a single line about 2 inches apart in rows 12 to 18 inches apart. Well, as my Christine says, life is too short for minimum spacing. We don't have time for that. So we're just gonna go in here and dribble drop. And I'm gonna have a ton of Swiss chard seeds left over, but that's all right. I don't mind a bit because they will save beautifully. So then once we've got them down in the ground, then we just come back and we just lightly cover them. Now, thinking about what my space is and how many different things I have. So I have 3 different kinds of kale, and then I have beets and 2 different kinds of lettuces. So I'm just gonna do 1 row of my Swiss chard, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do, let's do some kale. And you know what? I did kale in the spring, so this time I'm just gonna switch it up. Because these are not full packets, I'm just gonna go ahead and dump all 3 in my hand because they all have the same growing conditions. We're just gonna kind of have a kale smorgasbord here. So on the back again, so it is going to go again like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch deep. So I did my chard on one side. I'm going to try to do a relatively straight row of my kale right down the middle. Let's just go ahead and do our beets. That'll be fun. So these actually came from John Sheeper's, the kitchen garden seeds. This was my first year buying seeds from them. Fantastic. Love these. So if you're looking for a good reputable source of seeds, Johnny's Select Seeds out of Maine, and then these John Sheeper's kitchen garden seeds. Really high quality, really unique varieties. They taste delicious, they're beautiful, and they have great germination rates. So on my beets, again, 1/4 to 1/2 inches deep. They have great directions on it. Love that, because Jenny needs all the help she can get. So we're just going to come in here, do another little row. I did these beets in the spring, and oh my goodness, they were delicious. Now, as a child, I hated beets because my mama just had beets, like canned beets. Ugh, they were disgusting. And then one year I said, well, why not? Why don't we just, I think this was like 2 years ago. I said, well, let's just try some beets. Oh my gosh, they were delicious, especially roasted. But again, if you'll notice, they look very much like the Swiss chard. Very kind of round but rough, oblong. Says 1 inch apart. We're just going to go ahead and use up these seeds. So even though it says that they need to go 1 inch apart, clearly I'm not doing that. They're going a lot faster, closer to each other. So what I can do is, once everybody germinates and starts growing, then I can come in here and thin out the row. And I got a little too heavy-handed at the beginning of my row. And now I'm running out of seeds. It's all right. These will be nice and spaced out right here. Here we go. Get everybody tucked into their new house, their new home. Tucked in here. Now, I will have to make sure that I am watching my weeds, because weeds will overtake this if I'm not aware of that and choke out my new transplants. Now what we're going to do is this one is now finished. So we are going to go ahead and move over here and plant our 2 lettuce mixes, and then we'll be done. The garden boxes are all planted with our fall veggies. What I did right in this last one, I did 2 different types of salad blends. They're both from the Kitchen Garden Seeds. One was the baby leaf salad mixture, and then the next one was the summer salad greens blend. So that lends itself to warmer temperatures, and so it doesn't bolt as quickly. I did have an extra row left over, so I went ahead and put another swatch of the Bright Lights Swiss chard in there, because why not? We have the space, go ahead and use it. Now we just sit back and wait. All of these really are going to be individual cut vegetables that we're going to use. So the salad is not going to be a head, it's going to be like a leaf mixture. So I'll just come in here and just trim out what I need for supper or lunch, whatever. Same thing with the Swiss chard and the kale. The only thing that's going to be kind of individual will be those beets. But Hopefully this is giving you some ideas of some simple things that you can do in your fall garden this year. Remember, you do not have to have a big old field. You do not even have to have big garden boxes. You can do all of these in a container on your patio. As long as you get full sun, these guys will germinate and do wonderfully well in containers in small spaces. So don't think that you're limited by your space. You're not. You can have a great, gorgeous, fresh fall victory garden even in small spaces and big spaces. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been encouraging, giving you some ideas. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to Gardening with Creekside. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for all of your support. Y'all have a fantastic day, and we will see you next time. Bye, friends.